This week on Movies Baby, when the cat's away, Godzilla will play on my TV screen. By which I mean my wife and son were out of town this week, so I watched all 15 Showa-era Godzilla movies to feel less alone. Joe, you also watched all 15 Showa-era Godzilla movies this week, even though you were with your wife and son, so I don't know, that's not my business. Joe and I each have our own rankings. We have not shared those rankings with each other. I did not go until I had my own rankings and watched all the movies. I did not go and look at all the online rankings. I did afterwards because I was curious, but I was not affected by them.
No,
because we
zero.
are honest. We're not trying to seem a certain way, and
like I could give a shit what some guy on YouTube thinks is the best 15
and
show.
it's fun. You should do it. Pick a favorite director or franchise. Do your rankings and then go and look because it's very fun and it just reminds you of who you are as a movie viewer, what your priorities are. Because there was somewhere I was like, oh my god, that was almost like a consensus, everyone's worst movie, and I kind of like, there's a lot of that. So let's start off at the bottom with and we kind of tiered these out, I know. What are your
there's
bottom
15 films, right? So there's 3 sets of 5. I thought we'd do our bottom 5 each, see what we got together, see where we're wildly apart, and then we'll sort of work together because this podcast is leaving this show
with one list. One list. We're going to find consensus.
This podcast,
come hell or high water.
One podcast.
And we might have to stand up and do some sort of Godzilla
dance,
a Mecha Godzilla fight. We'll see. All right. So what do you got as your what are the worst 5 of the Showa?
Here's my 5 least favorite Showa era films. Tell me if any of these are on your list. I have, in no particular order, just actually in sequential order, Godzilla Raids Again from 1955. Then the next one, King Kong versus Godzilla, 1962. I have Son of Godzilla, 1967.
Right, hold on a second.
Okay.
Those are my bottom 3.
Okay, great. Okay, good. All right. So we are.
All right, so we're aligned on those 3.
Okay, but then my next 2. Let's see. Okay. Let's keep the energy up for this. All Monsters Attack is in my bottom 5, which we'll get to in a second because Brett has a take.
Nope, I do not have that in my bottom 5.
And then my 5th one is Godzilla versus Megalon.
Yes, I do.
Thank good. Okay. What's the one that I'm missing? Well,
I did bottom 3, and then I'm
you didn't.
So I have. All right, let's start with the bottom 3 because we agreed on this.
All right, that's fair enough. Okay.
So what is what
do you think the worst
really
one
quickly?
is?
I think my least favorite of the bunch is King Kong vs. Godzilla, which is the 3rd one that came out in 1962. And if you're following along at home, you can just quickly Google Showa era. There's a Wikipedia page. You'll see the whole list of them. So I thought King Kong vs. Godzilla, the 3rd one, and this is before I saw the current one that's in theaters, so I was not poisoned by that one. Okay, King Kong vs. Godzilla is. I was expecting to like it because it's Ishiro Honda is returning to do another one after doing the first one. And he makes a hard turn into slapstick and camp, which I liked for about 5 to 10 minutes. But it is just he's going 100 miles an hour with slapstick camp silliness, and the movie just hasn't figured out yet how to sort of balance that with some of the more the pathos and the sort of the political commentary and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it becomes this just sort of too silly movie. And then there's also so much blackface in it, which is just a total bummer. And so those things combined together, that was the one that was honestly the only one I just didn't have fun with at all or enjoy at all was King Kong vs. Godzilla. That would be my number 15.
I'm fine with that because I didn't like that one either, but personally, which is unimportant right now, we're doing a joint podcast list, but I felt miserable watching All Monsters Attack and Son of Godzilla. But, so how about this then? We both agree on Son of Godzilla. Can we put 14? Can we put Son of Godzilla?
Sure. And then Godzilla Raids Again at 13?
That's fine.
Okay.
I actually have a soft spot for Godzilla Raids Again. It's where we meet my guy, Ingarius, who I love. He's the what kind of dinosaur would you call that, Brett? Like a Stegosaurus-esque
Yeah,
sort of
spiny
fellow.
back, sort of.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this guy, he fights Godzilla in Godzilla Raids Again, the sequel to the original Godzilla. But they become best friends, and then they like fight on and off throughout the whole entire series. But really, at the end of the day, they're besties, and I love that guy.
I don't hate again.
Yeah.
I don't hate Godzilla Raids Again. It's just one of the. We'll see this throughout. It's one of the like bridge movies, transition movies, where they have Godzilla fight somebody else. This is the second movie in the whole series, right? The sequel to the original.
My guy.
Yeah. So they have him fight someone else. There's a little bit of camp. They're playing around with that. I don't hate it. It's just clearly like a transition, sort of almost like test movie as to where the franchise is going to go. And so it just ultimately is just sort of like feels like kind of an aimless movie to me. Son of Godzilla is basically like an episode of Gilligan's Island.
It's so bad.
which is fun, but it's just like can't.
It's not.
There's gonna be a very high bar because so many of these movies are so good. Son of Godzilla just feels like an episode of a TV show. There's a couple like that, and that's one of them.
In the mid '60s, the studio said, "Okay, we're gonna gear these films more towards." At first, in the early '60s, Honda wanted to expand them open because television happened in Japan, and that had a more broad audience. So they wanted to broaden it up with King Kong, Godzilla, and Mothra vs. Godzilla. But by the time we get to Son of Godzilla, the studio's like, oh, no, let's just make a couple like for kids for real. And woo boy, is tough. Godzilla has a son named Manila. Manila's like this ugly ass little dinosaur rodent. He is not appealing or cute. It is a shame. He's slimy through the whole film.
He's a little cute.
In Son of Godzilla, though, there's that spider. It has a wonderful spider puppet. Incredibly, the puppets and the suits, like some are bad, but most of them are incredible. So yes, this film, again, like Brett's saying, has some merit. I just found it so lame. When the people's story stinks, it stinks. That is kind of my opinion. Do you feel that way?
I totally agree.
There's two parts of all these movies. There's
agree.
like the human element, and then there's the monster element, and how those things line up. When the human element is like boring, slow, confusing, uninteresting, uninspired,
kills the movie.
It kills the pace. No matter how cool that spider is, it's just like I can't.
Yes,
I can't.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. So we've got King Kong vs. Godzilla 15, Son of Godzilla 14, Godzilla Raids Again at 13.
Well, then we got to have Megalon because we both agree, right?
And then Godzilla vs. Wow. So I got all right. So,
that's because you got your stinker, which would have been my dead last one.
So
all monsters.
Let's talk about.
All right, let's talk about this movie first, though. Hold on.
Godzilla vs. Megalon. Go ahead. I don't have a lot to say about it.
I'll say something about it.
Yeah.
Jet Jaguar freaking stinks. I despise Jet Jaguar. He is the worst kaiju by a country mile. I hate this guy. It's like an ugly Power Ranger, but big. It's like from a kid inventor's brain. No kids. Stop with the kids. I hate Jet Jaguar. I hate it. Just looks like an action figure. I hate you, Jet Jaguar. There are some cool fights in the film. Again, it's one of these movies that's pretty cool, obviously. I hate it. That's why it's last.
And Jet Jaguar also is overshadowed by... Because he's the first robot, really? First, like, big, sort of large-scale robot?
I bet you're right. I'm racking my brain.
And so then he gets completely overshadowed by Mechagodzilla, which comes right afterwards.
Gagan is or Gagan, or whatever that guy is.
Thank you, yeah.
He's like a big robot chicken.
Yes,
he's
right.
a robot.
That's right. Sorry.
But
guys, we watched so many Godzilla
I hate
movies.
Megalon. Okay, anyway, that's why that's low. But then, okay,
all right, we got to get to
this stinker.
All Monsters Attack, which comes out in 1969, is...
How's this 11?
It's...
You didn't like it. You were
just
like...
For people at home, there's the whole list and the directors. Okay, here's the thing. I got to be honest.
Defend it.
Because again, I had no idea what anybody thought about these movies.
Neither did I. It was just on... It was... Okay, go ahead.
So, All Monsters Attack is everyone's consensus worst Godzilla movie from the Showa era. I did not feel that way when I watched it. Because Joe hates kids in movies. Doesn't hate kids, but he hates kids in movies.
Long story short, yes.
I think, and I'm not like a fan of
kids in movies,
child actors or anything, but from the very first Godzilla, kids are an essential part of the Godzilla franchise. The way in the first one that like the kids' reactions to what's happening is so integral to the pathos of that first movie.
In the masterpiece first one.
First one. Okay.
So what do you like about
All Monsters Attack is basically like an after-school special. It's only an hour long. they
It's not a-
and like part of that hour. They barely got an hour because a lot of it is just like recycled footage from old ones.
all of it. Did you watch it first? Because like by the time I got to it in chronological order, I was like, I wanted to ring. Not look, I was mad at Honda. I was
I
mad
had
at Honda.
so much fun
It's a
with
clip
All
show.
Monsters Attack.
It's a clip show.
It's a kid that is like he's a latchkey kid.
It's
His
not a
dad,
movie.
Come on, when he's walking along the train tracks and his dad goes by because his dad's driving the train. His dad's like the conductor of the train. He's like, "Hey son, I wish I could spend more time with you."
It's the first second of the movie. What is
And
that?
then, all right, but then there's like these thieves, and there's like a Home Alone thing with the thieves in the house, and the kid outsmarts the thieves, and then
Stinks.
he bonds with Godzilla's son. What is it, Manila?
Manila.
Manila. He bonds with Manila.
Manila
who you
sucks.
Hate. I understand why you hate this movie.
It's not a movie. It's not a movie.
And then in the dream sequence when he's like with Manila, and then Manila's like, "I don't like humans," and like humans like have made our lives.
This was the
hell."
one when your
Like-
seamless order got to the house. This is like when the cheesesteak arrived, and then you were
All
just
right.
like jamming on it for 30 minutes.
Look, I
But
honestly thought I was gonna like read my notes and be like, "Oh no, I was wrong." I'm reading my notes and I'm just
'cause
reliving
it's
everything
just
I liked
all
about
the best
it.
parts of the previous 9 films in the series that are just clipped.
And at
Put
the
it down.
end-
We're
at
moving
the
on.
end, it does seem like maybe like a cynical play that was like that like would precede the launch of like kids toys or something,
Yes,
you know.
It is.
But there's a line at the end when the creator, I don't know, I can't even. What happens in this movie? When he goes, no, when the adult goes, adults believe in gods, so why can't kids have their own gods too, like Manila? I don't know. I liked it.
You're sick.
I don't know what to tell
You're
you.
sick, and I can't believe it crawled all the way up to
Look,
fucking.
we're gonna have one of the most unique lists online because literally every list I looked at had All Monsters Attack at dead last with a bullet. We don't. We
there's a
have it at 11.
Oh, cool. Good. Everyone will respect us now because we liked it more than. Well, actually, you know what? Only one I like better is Raids, but
Well, what would you put above it?
all
suck.
4 of them, but they all suck. It doesn't matter. Let's do
These are the
let's do
dregs.
10 through 6. 10 through 6.
All right,
Enough
now we're
of the
gonna get into some
dregs.
good ones.
All right,
Okay,
all right. Now
all
it
right.
gets tough. Now it gets tough.
All right.
All right,
Now,
all right.
what do you have?
All
All
right,
right,
yeah,
let me.
yeah,
I'll do mine. How about
Okay,
that? Let's
do
switch. Okay.
you got 5 or 3?
I've got 5.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got because I had to zoom up because you don't want to know how high I had All Monsters Attack.
No, I don't. I'm What in the world?
Joe, I had it at like 6 or 7. Okay, all right. I liked it. I'm sorry. I'm being honest.
Established.
Okay. Let's see. I have Invasion of Astro Monster, which is the first one in space, which I like. There's a lot of cool space
Kind of.
stuff.
There is cool
But
space
it's
stuff.
ultimately like so slow, and it plays like just like an episode of Star Trek, which is cool. But again, this is a high bar. These are fucking the best of these are like some of the best movies I've ever seen. So, I had Invasion of Astro Monster. I had Godzilla vs. Gigan in 1972 because I thought the main character was just a complete loser. That's the guy that's like. He's like a manga artist, but his idea is like a homework monster because kids hate homework. I was
It's
like,
really
shut
bad.
the fuck up! You're the protagonist.
That is what happens in Freddy Got Fingered.
Get out of here.
Did you watch Freddy Got Fingered
I
on
haven't watched it
Criterion?
yet. I gotta watch it. Okay.
It's the same plot as that movie.
So I have Godzilla vs. Gigan, Invasion of Astro Monster, and then I have a lot of people have this high. I had Destroy All Monsters from 1968, which is like the reteaming of the original SFX, the original special effects guy with the original director Ishiro Honda. So that was like a big like back to basics kind of movie after they were doing some experimental stuff. I thought though it was just it was a movie that just felt like a exhibition for the special effects, and it, like you were saying, it did not have enough of a story or a human element to compete with like the top tier movies for me. There was stuff though, it kind of like predicts Jurassic Park because that's also when they have like the Monster Island thing.
Monsterland.
Monsterland, I think, is the first appearance of Monsterland,
is.
which feels like a Jurassic Parky thing. They also are doing the like Monsters Destroy World Capitals thing, which like then becomes
that.
big in all the disaster movies of the 80s and 90s. There's also a little Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so there's cool stuff, but
It's good.
like just said, if you don't have the human element at the heart of it, these movies just don't really like move fast enough or in an interesting way. So I've got as Invasion of Astro Monster, Godzilla vs. Gigan, Destroy All Monsters, And then I've got next. This is where we're gonna disagree. I also have Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla in my kind of middle tier because I think that there's two Mechagodzilla movies that end the run, and Mechagodzilla is like the robot Godzilla, right? The evil robot Godzilla. I think Terror of Mechagodzilla, which ends the run, is one of the best movies of the whole thing, and that kind of overshadowed the first one, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. And then I have Abira Horror of the Deep, which I liked the human element of. I liked the story of these sort of ragtag kids going to try to find this brother that was missing. I also like that Godzilla. This is the one I was telling you about where Godzilla falls asleep a lot. And then like he's just like napping a lot, and they have to like wake him up to fight people, which I thought was funny. But overall, it's a little slower and not as much going on as the top tier ones. So those are my middle five.
Brett, I have 4 of your middle 5.
No way!
I got 4.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow, we did very similar. This is great. Okay, great.
Yeah. I too, the one where we are going to duke it out, and I say we have to.
Mechagodzilla.
Well, maybe we get there when we get there.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I am insanely pro Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, and while I enjoyed Terror of Mechagodzilla, I'm just afraid that Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla really, really got me. But Brett, let's go ahead and organize those 4
Yes.
then, all right?
Let's get the 4 that we agree on.
All right.
So I've got
So that's it's Invasion of Ashra Monster to Destroy All Monsters.
Yes.
Gigan and
Ibira.
Okay.
What you tell me? I'm fine with anything.
10. I agree with you. My personal opinion, 10 is Invasion of Astra Monster.
That's what I have too.
Invasion of Astra Monster is Ghidorah again. So in Ghidorah, the 5th film, there's this big space alien Ghidorah who comes down and he fights Godzilla and Rodan.
Yep.
And then in the next film that came out the next year, Invasion of Astra Monster, now just aliens want to borrow Godzilla and Rodan because now they have a Ghidorah that they got to defeat, and they just they go fight. I mean, then there's like a little trickaroo where the aliens were actually just going to mind control them and fight the Earth. But we just saw this battle royale in the previous film. 10 has to be Invasion of Astra Monster. Although I really did love that visual of the kaiju getting like put in those big bubbles,
and taking up to space. That was
so
great.
cool, man.
No, there's a lot of great visuals. No, we're getting into the better movies now.
Right.
So there's a lot that's good in it. It's just ultimately kind of slow and repetitive, and like
stylish.
I said, feels
like many of these movies
feels like a good episode of Star Trek, but it's not going to compete with the top tier.
No. I was just
Godzillas.
it's just we already saw it.
What do you got next?
All right, next up, why don't we go ahead and let's put
Can we get that dumb homework monster guy in here? I don't want him too high.
Wait, is that Gigan?
That's Gigan.
No, but here's the problem.
Okay.
Gigan rocks.
Yeah.
All right.
Here's
the thing. All right.
I
look,
hate that guy.
I understand that. Obviously, I agree with you.
What do you want then?
Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah, good. I like that. That's gonna be controversial too, because people like that
I do like Destroy All Monsters. I actually had the chance to watch it with my mom, who I forced to watch it because I forced my whole family to watch them this week because I watched 15 Godzilla movies in 5 days. So that was fun.
Cool.
To be with my mom and watch it. And we both were like, "Wow, that was really stylish and cool." But Brett already hit it. It is a thrill. If I was a kid, obviously this is the best one because it has all the monsters fighting each other at the end, which is appreciated.
They make so many of these though. A lot of these literally came out in the same year. I do feel like that one the special effects team was just like, hey, can you give us one to just go like nuts on? We've got a lot of stuff we need to try out.
Cool.
And so I feel it just feels like a big special effects exhibition, but doesn't make the top 8.
All right, I next choice is important, number 8, because it's either going to be Godzilla vs. Gigan, or it's going to be Abira, Horror of the Deep. And I just want to speak up for both of them, and then you can pick which one, okay?
Yeah.
Gigan is really good, okay? First of all, it's Nakajima's last Godzilla movie. So the guy who played Godzilla in all of these movies for 20 years, he's just a crazy guy who got in a 200-pound suit and would walk around, and he helped build them all, and he's Godzilla. This is his last one, which is a fun, cool thing. But Brett, this movie has some amazing things in it. First of all, Gigan is a giant robot chicken with a giant swirling saw in his belly, which is so cool. Oh, also, Gagan draws blood. It was so shocking. Like
To see
10
blood?
movies in,
Yeah, yeah.
Gagan just like rips Angarius, my guy's face off, and he's bleeding down his face. Also, Gagan, he gets Godzilla right in the top of the head, and then blood's like running down Godzilla's face. I was like, okay, yes. Also, the bad guys are space cockroaches that take
Yeah.
on the person of a person, and then when they are defeated, you see that they are just cockroaches that can talk, which is so awesome. This movie's great. Oh yeah, Godzilla holds all three of Ghidorah's heads back, and Anguillus, slams his like spiky back into his belly, and then Godzilla picks up Ghidorah by the neck, all three of them, and throws him over his head like WWE and slams him on the ground.
But do you remember in Abira Horror of the Deep when those fighter planes are like coming at the island and shooting at Godzilla, and for some reason in this beautiful like twisted moment, the movie starts playing this like beach blanket bingo like surf rock song, and then Godzilla starts doing this like boogie woogie dance while the planes are shooting at him, and he's like dancing around the bullets that they're firing at him.
Yeah, I love
and there's
it.
like no, there's just they just do it because it's fun.
Here's the twist: I love Abira.
I love Abira too.
I love it. I love it.
I think
First
Abira
of all,
goes higher.
wait, okay, fine. I appreciate that. That's
Yes.
totally fine, folks. What's so good about Abira? First of all, not since the first Godzilla are we getting the water. Like I want the water. Like I want to see the ocean. I want to, and finally at Abira, not only do we get a lot of great ocean stuff again, Abira is a giant lobster who fights in the ocean.
You see his claw shoot out of
Godzilla rips his claw off at one part. It absolutely rocks. Also, I thought the production design was absolutely gorgeous, like Mondrian inspired lines and pipes.
Yes,
absolutely stunning. Godzilla, he's pounding his fists, and he's so hyped up in this one. Also, he cannonballs into the ocean as the island explodes at the end, which was amazing. Look, people sleep on this one. People sleep on Jun Fukuda's movies. Everybody loves Ishiro Honda, but I honestly, after watching, and I do too, he made Godzilla and he made a lot of these movies we like very much. I couldn't help the feeling after watching the 15, Brett, that Honda, who is a master of color and understands how to work with the effects and understands the human element, and he really takes the whole franchise seriously. I couldn't help but feel, but he must have been like the old man walking around the studio by the end, poo-pooing everybody or helping everybody, because Fukuda brings so much to the series, I think, and makes all those later 70s, except the Megalon, which we didn't like those movies were amazing. I thought they were just such a great run. But anyway, I like the pick. I like Abira. I thought the fights in the water were so great. So I'm happy to see that so high.
I did too. I thought Abira was a sleeper for me. I could see it being one that people would not give a lot of credit to, and I think it was low in most rankings. I think it's secretly one of the better ones.
It. Even Jun Fukuda didn't like it himself, and then he made Son of Godzilla, which is a stinker. And he must have been so put out by the series, but then he comes back with this the early 70s run. I don't know. I love it.
Now, here's the thing. All right, so Mechagodzilla, there's two, the Showa era ends with the two Mechagodzilla movies.
Let's fight about.
Because here's the thing. Because I already have Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla on my list, but it's not on here yet because you like it. The only movie I would put it ahead of that's left is Terror of Mechagodzilla, is the other Mechagodzilla movie.
That is
I cannot see it being better than any of these other ones.
Because Terror is what I have in this group.
Got it.
That's the alt for me. So it's just simply, when it comes to number 6, one of us likes Honda's.
Well, can I interest you in this?
You may. We cut a better film down to 6 just so we can both have our way a little
No.
bit. Okay, wait.
We move Abira, because both us talking about Abira, I think we remembered how much we liked it.
I love Abira.
What if we bump Abira up to 6, and then the 5 and 7 slots are the Mechagodzillas?
But that means one of us is getting disrespected. One of our opinions.
I could look.
Can I make my case?
The Mechagodzillas. Okay. I'm not gonna. We are not kidding, y'all. We watched 15 Godzilla movies basically back to back to back, and the Mechagodzilla ones are the last ones you get to. I feel the least confident in my analysis of those two because they're the last ones I watched because I watched them chronologically.
Yes,
I could be swayed to a different opinion on it's not. I can't see either one going higher than 5, but I don't think we're talking about that. So I would say we move Abira up to 6.
Just so you know, just for context,
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is my third favorite one in the series.
Really?
It had a lot of really good stuff in it. Let me just kind
Okay,
of let me just throw out some stuff.
Mechagodzilla.
Okay, first of all, here's some cool stuff that happens in this one. Godzilla soaks up a thunderstorm finally to get more electricity power, which was rad. Then when Mechagodzilla first appears, he's disguised as Godzilla, so you get a Godzilla versus Godzilla fight in a city, which was badass. Also, the monkey men, aliens, whenever the aliens get shot, they turn back into their real form, which is this like monkey, space monkey. So cool looking. I love that. Also, in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, there's something that a lot of the other films could have benefited from. The human story isn't only good, they have guns and they fight and there's action sequences, which was great because I'm watching a Godzilla movie, number 14. I wanted to have action in it. Also, it has the funniest kaiju, King Caesar. The whole movie, we're waiting for King Caesar. Eventually, at the very tail end of the film, he's finally evoked because the prophecy has lined up perfectly. And then he comes out, and Godzilla just basically takes care of Mechagodzilla, and King Caesar gets a couple punches in. Very, very underwhelming, but very, very funny buildup. And then they had one of my favorite shots in the entire thing was the tracking pan shot when it was 2 against 1 on Mechagodzilla, and it went from, was it Anguirus or it was King Caesar. It starts at King Caesar and then it like pans around Mechagodzilla like all the way to Godzilla and shows you the whole area and the whole scope of the fight in one pan shot, a la Maestro. And I was like, I loved it. And so what about Terror? The problem with Terror is I love its grittiness. I love its focus on the characters. I love a mad scientist, which I missed from. They haven't had a mad scientist since Godzilla. I think the real problem with Terror of Mechagodzilla for me is that the human story, though I thought it was more captivating when I was watching it, didn't make a lick of sense. Not one lick. I did not get it. And I was completely and totally of sane mind to understand the film. And it just didn't click. I could tell it was trying to be more somber. I appreciate it being about adults. At the end, 10 minutes is spectacular. But the human stuff was good, but it didn't make any sense, Brett.
Let me push back against a couple things there. First, Terror of Mechagodzilla, the last of the Showa-era run, and then there's like a 10-year gap before Toho makes another Godzilla movie. And they brought back Honda, the original director, the guy who's been sort of, shepherding the majority of the movies. They bring him back for the final one. It is notable for being one of the darkest of the run, if not the darkest, the most sort of pessimistic. To me, it reminds me of Godfather Part 3, which I actually like a lot, in the sense that it is the movie where the franchise is not in love with itself anymore. The franchise it's not sort of riding high on its own, confidence and on its own swagger. The franchise kind of has grown sort of sick and tired of itself. And that vibe can create some very interesting movies where you just have a lot of sort of naked sort of cruelty and despair in Terror of Mechagodzilla. A lot of like, what was all this for? All this destruction and death and all these evil plans and all, and then we would solve it, but then it would just happen. Like, what was all this about? And then Godzilla at the very end just sort of walking off sadly into the ocean. Every movie ends with Godzilla just walking off into the ocean or into the forest or whatever. But in this case, there's just a vibe of an end of an era. It's a real end of an era movie.
Yeah.
Mid-70s, end of the era. I liked it for that reason. The thing that you mentioned about, it's funny because your review of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla is the reason I didn't like it, which is everything you listed was cool, but it was all just like effects and cool kaiju stuff and this and that. What we've talked about is what makes Godzilla, the franchise, so great is the way it combines all these different elements. Monster effects, cool monster stuff with human story, with political commentary, with weirdness, with surrealness. I
hear you.
To me, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla just has a lot of cool shit in it, but it's not going to be top 5 for me because because it doesn't have enough of the other stuff going on.
I like the human stuff in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. I like the little nucleus of the three of them. I like when they get trapped by the aliens and they start getting overheated. I like the love dynamics. I like it. The love dynamic in Terror of Mechagodzilla is exciting because it's intercut with the kaiju fight at the end of the film to great effect, and I like that very much. But Honda is stealing some of Facunda's best stuff. When Mechagodzilla, when we first get those like, there's like, and it does all those like quick cuts in succession. When you get to see all the parts of Mechagodzilla, Honda just does that again in Terror of Mechagodzilla because he knew it was fucking badass.
And the first reveal of Mechagodzilla is an all-time great moment in movie history, where the skin and the the leathery Godzilla skin falls off, and then there's this metal robot inside is a great moment.
Can I tell you my finish him move right now on this? Thank you. It just boils down to this: Titanosaurus stinks.
Okay.
He stinks.
Okay.
Titanosaurus just isn't good. He's just not good. I like when he comes out of the water and they shoot him like very, very low and it looks like a sexy Beau Travail guy popping out of the water. I like that, and it's like dripping down on the camera.
Yep.
But he's a weak kaiju. Maybe since Manila have I been so uninspired by kaiju.
Wow. Okay.
That's all right. But you know what? I'll give you this as a concession. Do what you will with the Ibira.
I think we move. We could move Ibira to 5.
Do it.
I think we move Ibira. It doesn't feel good to have the Mechagodzillas back to back though on the list. It feels weird.
Well, look, you know where I stand. I mean,
here's the thing. I do want some Mechagodzilla representation in the top 5. And to me, in my heart, I'm gonna put Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla at 5.
Thank you.
In my heart, I know that there's a little bit of Terror of Mechagodzilla in that ranking, though.
That.
Okay, you know what I mean? No one else is going to know that.
You. I appreciate.
No one else is going to know that.
You're just gearing up to get one.
I think I got one now because of that.
Yeah,
I think I got one.
That's a trick.
We have Ibira then at 6, and then we're going to put Terror of Mechagodzilla at 7.
Brad, I think this is good.
This is actually a very good list.
I think this is good.
We are in unison minus the All Monsters Attack.
No, dude,
thing.
we're so in unison right now.
Might end up being the fiasco. You know how trolls like look for the one thing that they can get you on in like a I could list out like my 200 top favorite movies, and then I put like Beach Bum too high for some people, and that's gonna be the one thing that they like. This is gonna be the one thing that they latch onto to undermine our list. But bring it, baby! I'll defend All Monsters Attack all day. Also, like, which one is it better? Like, this is all kind of the dregs down there.
It's not good.
All right,
Brett. There's 4 films left.
All right, what do we got? So what do we got?
Here are the 4 films left.
Please, Joe.
We have Godzilla, the 1954 Ishiro Honda masterpiece.
The original,
the OG. We have the 5th film in the series. We have the 4th film in the series, Mothra vs. Godzilla in 1964. And that same year, Ghidorah, the 3-headed monster, came out in 1964.
What a year.
Both directed by Honda. And then we have Godzilla vs. Hedorah, which is very interesting to see on both of our top 4, Brett, because this is a divisive one.
It's a divisive one.
Why don't we take a little look talking about this film for a second? Godzilla vs. Hedorah, 1971, by Yoshimitsu Banno. This
probably the most divisive one in the whole.
This is the only one he got to direct. This film is the sort of social cause that this film is the environment. The director saw the pollution in Japan and he was like, we need to address this via a Godzilla, and he makes a pollution monster. Sounds dumb? No,
it's not.
It's not dumb.
It's fucking psychedelic.
They
go
so
psychedelic
cool.
with it. Yeah.
Hedorah, this big trash tadpole seaweed monster with a giant red eye, is so scary and good, and he like lurks through this dark film. The darkest imagery of the whole series is in this film, Brett.
The opening credits, you have like this like dismembered mannequin floating in this like pond of like toxic waste, and there's the coolest like swinging 60s psychedelic song on the soundtrack, and this woman is like screaming like, give it all back, meaning give the earth back, humans, you fucked it up. And it is like, and it's all sort of with that like psychedelic, like what is it? All sort of like everything's sort of bleeding into it, everything else, and it looks like you're looking at stuff under a microscope. It is a trippy movie, and it's really cool.
Except Godzilla, the original, never have I felt in these movies the human consequence of the kaiju more than in Godzilla vs. Hedorah. First of all, like the whole film is darker, and his sludge is like flying all over everyone, and it's disgusting, and he's like dripping and oozing. At one point, Hedorah, he like sloops up to the top of this giant pollution chimney stack in some industrial factory, and he just starts like sucking in the fumes, like just gobbling pollution, making him stronger and stronger. So dark, so scary, and the people really like. It was a mess to have Hedorah in your town. The other ones, it's like, Anguillus, he's stepping on my house.
And
this one, you felt it.
No, they like everyone like accepts that the world is about to like end. In this one, a little bit more so. In other ones, it's like, oh, we got this problem. We'll figure it out. It's gonna be bad for a while. In this movie, there's an insane scene where they all go to Mount Fuji and have like a mini Woodstock because they all think the world's about to end. Remember that scene?
Yeah.
Where they go to like. I wrote it here, the Mount Fuji fuck it party, where there's a guy with a guitar and an amp, and there's like not that many people. It's like but maybe like 50 people.
Poorly attended.
But it's poorly attended, but they all throw this big sort of rager for the end of the world because they all think the world's about to end. So they're like, this guy's like jamming on guitar. And everyone's like sort of dancing, and there's like bonfires. This is just such a trippy, cool movie. And it's so, you watch a movie like this, it's like, this is like the marquee franchise of an entire nation, and they had such fun, such like uninhibited fun with it over and over and over again. I love it. It's just so refreshing to watch a movie that clearly did not go through like 80 rounds of producer notes, but they just trusted a guy to make sort of a weird banger. And I guess it was divisive, but to the people that don't like this movie, what do you want from life or from cinema? I don't understand. Right. Like, this movie's so much fun, and it's so weird, and it's dark, and it's cool.
Tanaka, the guy that produced all these films, he left exactly what you said. He left it alone, and then he watched it, and he hated it, and then this guy never made another one ever again.
Well, there you go.
Big mistake, but also it's okay. But also big mistake.
I love this movie.
But is it going to be 4, 3, 2, or 1?
Okay, so all right, so that is a strong pick for top 4.
All right.
The other it's not going to be 1 or 2 for me. Can we at least establish that?
100.
Okay, so I think what we're looking at for 3 and 4.
It's 4, Brett.
Is Ghidorah, and to me the other one that is a possibility here is Godzilla vs. Hedorah from 1971.
Correct.
No, sorry. That's the one we just talked about.
Yeah.
Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster from 1964 is my other candidate for 3 or 4. And Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster this is the movie where the Godzilla franchise turns jumping the shark into like high art. Like, this movie throws everything at the fucking wall, and it is a just like blistering 100-mile-an-hour just marathon of weirdness.
It's so
and
good.
Like movie tropes, and like that's another great thing about the franchise is it brings in so many tropes from like spy movies and like James Bondy kind of stuff, and like adventure movies and like noir. It brings in so many different things. Here's what we got in this movie. Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster. We have assassins wearing Renaissance like ruff collars and sunglasses. Cool, weird. There's a princess who they think died on a plane because that's when the assassins they blew
like
her
jumps
plane
out
up.
of a plane. It's awesome.
And it also gave us the immortal line. This is between like 2 cops or 2 reporters, I can't remember, but one of them says, "Hey, when does the princess arrive?" And the other guy goes, "Forget about that. Her plane exploded." Amazing line. So but the princess like survived it, but then like in the fall she like turned into this like messenger from Venus, this like prophet from Venus. Remember, like like the princess turns into the prophet from Venus, and then the prophetess, and then she like is like telling the earth that like this space monster who destroyed our civilization is now going to come to Earth and destroy your civilization. But then everyone's like, wait, that looks exactly like that princess who we thought died. Like, what's going on here? And they have to figure that out. There's like a TV show about UFOs and stuff called Mysteries of the 20th Century that sounds amazing that I would watch the hell out of, and that's kind of like part of the plot. The monster fights at this point are just pure pro wrestling. Godzilla suplexes Rodan at one point.
It's awesome.
Rodan like picks up Godzilla because the flying monster and like drops him.
Yes.
At one point they're playing they're just throwing a big rock back. Every time they just throw a big rock back and forth for a minute is the funniest thing I've ever seen
Brett,
in my life.
Godzilla's number one move. He starts out with by the way, he has something called like nuclear astro breath, nuclear breath.
Yeah.
He has like nuclear bomb breath that can melt steel
like
beams.
I feel like it hurts him or something.
Well, his back gets all electric.
He doesn't use it a lot.
It's so cool, and he blows hot fire and stuff. And he's a big, strong monster. He is just basically throwing rocks for like 12 of these 15 movies, and not kind of. It's sort of his main move. He throws. At one point, sometimes different kaiju have like a rock catch with him sometimes, just throwing rocks back and forth to each other. Anyway, Brett, I love when he throws rocks, and I love this movie so much that now I'm thinking like, what should be 3?
What?
Godzilla 1954.
No way. You forget. This is recency bias in this conversation.
Look, here's the deal.
It can't be out of the top 2.
But what if it was? But let me look. When we have in Ghidorah, when Rodan and Godzilla,
it's not the first one.
No, it's not. But when they fight each other like in front of Mount Fuji for the first time, I was like, this is on fire. And they confidently go into the sci-fi stuff. I think this is Honda's best looking movie, except maybe the first one.
Yeah.
He is so on top of his game. The color is so beautiful. The composition is freaking beautiful. This movie is exciting. It's sci-fi. It's everything you could possibly want. And look, the other film we haven't talked about is Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Right.
And let's talk about that for a second, because I kind of want to compare Ghidorah for a second.
Okay.
So
that's a good comparison because to me, Mothra is the fullest realization of what Ghidorah is doing. Because Ghidorah to me is just it is, again, just like jumping the shark is high art. It is just like pure silly camp.
Yeah.
It is pure cinema start to finish, but it ultimately like doesn't have because what Mothra does is all of that, plus it has this sort of haunting melancholy going on, and this heart and this story and this human story at the heart of it. So to me, like, Ghidorah is just like is like, it gets like the pure camp award, right? It's the best of the it does camp the best out of the franchise, but it doesn't it can't get higher than like 4 or 5 for me, because it doesn't combine that with pathos, with melancholy, with like interesting commentary. It is
I that's a convincing, like, you're right. I think I just like that more than the grounded beauty of Mothra. My thing about Mothra vs. Godzilla, which is amazing, and I absolutely love it, and it's beautiful, and it comes out the same year or the year before this movie.
Same year.
I mean, these couldn't be closer films. I think the problem with me is like, that's like a Mothra movie that Godzilla cameos in at the end, and almost randomly so. It's almost like, oh, here's a Mothra, here's the egg, here's a plot, here's a Mothra movie, and then, oh, by the way, can you go help out with this Godzilla thing? And I love the fight at the end of Godzilla vs. Mothra. I love it very, very much. But that's like, I guess that's like kind of cheating. Like, it's a Godzilla movie, but it really feels like a Mothra story. I like Ghidorah because it introduces Godzilla's #1 foe, who gets his ass kicked every time he appears. He's like 0% scary by the third time we see him get his butt beat by Anguillus and
there is a great point too, because all the monsters have to team up to beat Ghidorah. You have Godzilla and Rodan, who've been fighting the whole movie, have to team up.
And then
Mothra's like, well, it's the second Mothra who's in still in the larva form. So it's just Mothra, it's not beautiful winged Mothra. It's like Mothra that has to crawl on the ground. And there's an incredible scene where somebody's translating because somebody speaks kaiju, and so Godzilla says, "Why should we help the humans? They always bully us," which is the sweetest thing I've ever heard anyone say. And you're like, oh, Godzilla, right? Because from his perspective, this just horrible group of people.
He was asleep quietly for years,
years,
not bothering a soul.
And then they just started shooting bombs at his house. so Godzilla and Rodan don't agree, and then so Mothra's like, "I'll do it myself," and then old larva Mothra just crawls up the hill to fight this 3-headed dragon who spits lasers, and is just getting his ass handed to him because, of course, and then Godzilla and Rodan, they join the fight not because they care about the humans, but because they feel bad for Mothra.
Dude, in this movie, when Mothra first goes to try to break him up, because first Rodan and Godzilla are having a spat, they send Mothra to go and fix it, right? Is that
Yep.
And then Mothra kind of like talks to them, and they're like, "No, we're still mad at each other. I'm sorry." And I started to find this element really endearing, that the kaiju are all sort of like friends and foes and talk to each other. I found it very endearing, and I found it very fun. Now let's talk about some of the exciting things about Mothra vs. Godzilla, though, because it's not like it's like, oh, it's just about the human stuff. It has Mothra fighting Godzilla. By the way, Mothra's like invincible. It's not even fair. Like Mothra wins every fight, so much so that at the end of Godzilla vs. Mothra, essentially Mothra kind of taps out and flies away, and then one of the humans is like, "Ah, yes, Mothra's dead now, but don't worry, the egg cracked, and here's the 2 babies," which is fun. But then they shoot webs at Godzilla until he's all webbed up, and then he falls into the ocean, and it's good. It's really, really good. I don't want to undersell it. Ghidorah vs. Mothra has some really amazing things in it. First of all, it has the 2 priestess women from Infant Island, where Mothra's from, which are characters I like very much, and they're used to great effect in Mothra vs. Godzilla, where they sing this like enchanting song, and it looks very cool the way that they, present these musical interludes, and Mothra's very spiritual and a beautiful kaiju. That movie has sort of an industrialist, or sort of like a capitalist sort of villain at the top, and he steals Mothra's big, beautiful egg, and he's gonna start a theme park where everyone can come look at the egg.
Amazing.
And he's great acting, and it's a really, really fun part. So it's not like it's an easy choice where I'm sitting here being like, oh, Ghidorah in a freaking landslide.
Well, here's the thing.
It's tough.
The thing. All right, because I'm gonna go ahead and spill, and I'm gonna make a case. I have Mothra vs. Godzilla as my number 1. I have Mothra vs. Godzilla as my number 1 movie of the franchise.
Let's talk about that.
This is why. Because look, the original one is a stone cold masterpiece, one of the greatest movies of all time. It is. You can't even. They never really tried up until. I mean, Godzilla -1 is sort of a remake of the original, and shockingly, like, nails it. But they needed 50, or not even 70 years to
64
do that.
movies in
yes,
between.
right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
In this initial Showa run, they don't even try to touch the vibe of the original. They never do. So really, the subsequent movies is about how do we unlock a new vibe, a new aesthetic, some new style that's going to set a template for the rest of this franchise. And they're kind of flailing because the next 2 movies after the original are at the very bottom of our list. Godzilla Raids Again and King Kong vs. Godzilla, both to me are pretty big misses. Godzilla Raids Again feels like they're just trying stuff out, but those are 2 pretty big misses. And then at number 4, you get Mothra vs. Godzilla, which to me is the key that unlocks the next 70 years. This is the Guinness Book World Records longest running movie franchise ever, and it's because of Mothra vs. Godzilla, not because of the original one. Mothra vs. Godzilla, what it does is it maintains the camp and the weirdness of that they were trying in King Kong vs. Godzilla. It maintains all the camp and the weirdness and the color and the cool production design, this and that. But it brings back, it restores the sort of mournfulness, the melancholy, the pessimism, the beauty, and the gravity of the original movie. It is the perfect meshing of, because look, the first one's original, or the original one is amazing, but it doesn't have any of like the camp that becomes so crucial to what you think of as Godzilla movies. And so to me, Mothra vs. Godzilla is the best in the entire Showa run of combining the 2 spheres that make Godzilla great. The melancholy, the commentary, the beauty, the humanity, with sort of high camp, high kitsch. And it also, the political commentary is very interesting too, because that also gets us into the next stage of Godzilla movies. Because what Mothra vs. Godzilla is commenting on is not humanity's impending destruction, right, in nuclear war. Not about like, because the first Godzilla is all about like, these people are about to destroy their entire planet, right? Everything is about to end. Mothra vs. Godzilla is more pessimistic about how humanity figured out how to survive, right? It's not about humanity killing itself. It's about how humanity figured out how to survive after World War II, which is things like late stage capitalism, the exploitativeness of capitalism at that point. Um, uh, Poisoning the environment will come in later, but it sets the stage for all of that stuff. That Godzilla then becomes more about how we figured out how to survive after getting through nuclear war, and all the things we had to do to create a sort of recreate civilization. And that to me is very, very interesting and creates a lot of, because it can't just be about nuclear war for 15 movies, right? So that sets sort of a foundation for what the Godzilla movies can be about politically after that. And then there are two, this is the last thing I'll say. There are two, because I'm making a case for number one here. There are two scenes that are just absolute all-timer iconic scenes I will never stop thinking about. Number one, you mentioned the two fairies. I think you undersold them. These fairies are they start out as like a gag. They show up, they have little hats that look like cupcakes, and they run around this apartment, and literally two like bozo bad guys are trying to like capture them with overcoats, right? They started out as a gag. But then the good humans travel to their homeland, Infant Island, right, which is an island out somewhere. And this island has been ravaged by nuclear testing and ravaged by the things that the sort of so-called civilized world has been doing for the last 10, 20 years. And so the humans go out to ask for their help, to ask for Mothra's help. And at first, they're like, no, you ruined our beautiful island with all the shit you're doing. Why would we help you? And they've reached an impasse with these people, and then they hear the two fairies like singing, and they go and they follow the song, and they go, yes, it's the most beautiful, sad song you've ever heard. And what they're singing is, we have no faith in your world. We have no faith in your world. And these three human characters, are watching them from behind. The fairies don't even turn around, which is like a shockingly sort of avant-garde move to do in this movie. They don't even turn around. They're just watching them from behind. They're singing this song, and these humans slowly realize that they have nothing. They have no leverage. They have no power. They failed. Human civilization kind of failed. It doesn't matter how much money it makes, how many machines it churns out, how many inventions it comes up with. It kind of failed at a fundamental moral level, human civilization. Still now, yes, but specifically at that point, humanity's kind of looking at itself in this movie and saying, like, we not just are we on a wrong track, we failed. The entire project failed.
Which is actually a more interesting insight than maybe at first glance, because in 1964 is the Japanese economic miracle.
Yes.
So it's almost like Honda looking good news in the eye and saying
Yes.
F you, which is actually very interesting.
Because again, it's
yeah.
about the pessimism in this movie, again, is about humanity's success and resilience, because it's about what was required for that resilience to happen, which is these sort of like soulless late capitalist metropolises where like exploitation of labor and exploitation of the masses and this sort of consumerist soulless bullshit culture that was created in the wake of the destruction of World War II. And so it just, like, to me, Godzilla vs. Mothra is just a fucking masterpiece at the highest level, and it combines. It's the only movie in the Showa era that has every one of the elements that make Godzilla movies great at the highest level. It's the only one for me that has everything.
It's a good argument, and I think the argument's going to win out, because my pushback is it's a Mothra movie, and I liked Ghidorah better. So that's not good enough, though. You made a very cogent, well-stated point. And to say it, I think that Ghidorah does a bit of what you're saying. Like, I think this is the bridge films. Mothra vs. Godzilla really does remind me more of the late 50s kaiju Rodan Mothra movie kind of vibe, and then Ghidorah really springs us off into here's some insane Godzilla movies.
Yes.
So I do like your dividing line. I think it's a good argument.
Here's what I'm going to win you on.
And I think it's a gorgeous movie.
Here's what I'm going to win you on, because you do bring up a good point that there's not as much Godzilla in it as some of the other movies, but it does have maybe my favorite. It's very subtle, but maybe my favorite Godzilla moment in the entire Showa run. And I told you about this before, and you told me a little behind the scenes story.
Wait, which one? Oh yeah.
So there's a moment where Godzilla is like rampaging through the city, and he's coming up against this, like, the city is just sort of modern metropolis, but then there's this one set of, like, pagodas, these, like, beautiful Japanese pagodas, and they're all sort of together in a complex, and he's coming up against, I'm like, oh, not the pagodas, like destroy a fucking factory or something, I don't know, but like, don't, but he's coming up against these pagodas, and I don't think he was intending on destroying them, but then there's an insert shot where Godzilla literally like trips over this like retaining wall, and then he falls into one of the pagodas, and then he gets like mad because he like tripped, and he you know when you hit your shin or you stub your toe, Godzilla does that. And then he just starts ripping these pagodas to shreds, but out of just sheer frustration, and you can hear him screaming like, "Get all this like shit out of my way! There's just shit everywhere. I'm just trying to walk. I can't walk. And there's fucking shit everywhere." It's that kind of a moment, and it's such a like. It's not like a soulless monster. It is a human who's like just like imagine you get up in the middle of the night and you walk to the refrigerator to get a snack and you stub your toe. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to you because it's just like you're just trying to do the simplest thing in your life, which is just get a midnight snack or a drink of water or something, and then your body is just like rushing with like the most specific like acute pain out of nowhere, and it also felt so unnecessary and so silly, and you're just mad at the sort of silly unnecessariness of it all, and it just sums up Godzilla in this city because he's just like, get all this, what is all this? Get at it, like, and then this wall I tripped over, put this wall here, and it's the first moment in the franchise where Godzilla feels more human than the humans to me, which then becomes, I think, sort of a plot point that they explore. So it may not have a lot of Godzilla, but it has my absolute favorite little Godzilla moment.
It's a great moment. It's a great movie. I love it, and I love your argument, and I'm willing to have it be high on our list.
He didn't say.
All right, so 4 is Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
Yes. Okay, I like that.
All right, that we can agree on. We loved Hedorah. It's an amazing
wacky fun
kaiju film. It's very dark and
dark,
fun.
yeah.
I love when Godzilla dries him out and then just punches holes through him until he turns into dust.
It's great.
It's a great movie.
It's great.
3 Ghidorah, 2 Godzilla, 1 Godzilla vs. Mothra.
Why? Yes! Yes, God! Godzilla!
Here's the deal.
All right, hold on. Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
Yeah.
3
Ghidorah. The 3-headed monster.
Here's all that I ask, and I'll give you the honors on this.
Yeah.
We have to, as part of that, we have to say all the nice things we can say about the original movie because it's the GOAT. Somehow, like, here's the thing. The interesting thing about the original is I fully believe that it's number 2 on this list for me.
Okay.
And for you.
Well.
But if you had me list like the 500 best movies of all time or something, I think I would have it higher than any. I think I would have it higher than any of these. But this is specifically a Godzilla list, and specifically, it's just such an in-universe Godzilla list. And for me, Mothra is just it's the one that has everything. It's just the pinnacle to me. It has everything.
It's got a big, beautiful, shiny egg.
Yep.
It's got little slimy larva. It has Mothra. It has Godzilla doing his thing, throwing a fit.
Talk about Mothra. Mothra is gorgeous.
Mothra's beautiful.
Joe, I didn't even tell you. Mothra is in the new Godzilla Kong movie, the New Empire.
Oh.
It is a travesty. A travesty.
What did they do to my guy?
They again, like was it the Godfather? Look how they massacred my boy.
That's what they did.
That's what I screamed in the theater last night when Mothra comes on the screen. I go, look, they've massacred my boy.
Mothra's so beautiful.
Mothra's beautiful in the original. The wings,
gorgeous,
so beautiful.
And 2 of the ugliest little babies, but I love them. And they're on little like remote control wheels, and you can tell them like clicking around.
In the new movie, just fucking CGI nonsense.
Disgusting.
Nonsense. Not even like there's
even
no
Mothra?
even like
There's
new
not, like-
ones. No, Mothra's just this disgusting CGI
Butterfly.
Just got
Yuck.
puked onto the screen.
Yuck.
All right.
Okay, so our favorite Godzilla movie is a Mothra movie, Mothra vs. Godzilla, and then the second best Godzilla movie is Godzilla, which is an incredible movie. First of all, it's just like it's beautiful, it's black and white,
it's one of the best movies of all
atmospheric, it's absolutely gorgeous. I love when Godzilla walks through like the power lines for the first time, and all the shocks come out. It looks so brilliant in the black and white, so terrifying. Whatever. It's Godzilla. Absolutely mind-bogglingly good allegory, that led to a mind-bogglingly good film, that led to 64 and counting sequels for the longest-running franchise in the history of movies. So honestly, bow down to the king of the monsters, Godzilla. Bow down to Godzilla 1954, but that movie has to bow down to Movies Babies #1 Showa Godzilla movie of all time.
Mothra vs. Godzilla, baby.
Mothra vs. Godzilla.
And I will say for the original, look, we don't get this list. We don't get this list without the original. Here's what I will say about the original Godzilla.
This list's good.
It's one of the best movies of all time.
Okay.
It is unlike some of the other monster movie franchises, it's purely a invention of the movies, right? This doesn't exist. I mean, you have kaijus going back centuries, but Godzilla starts with the movie. It's not based on a source text.
No,
it starts with the movie. It is a cinematic
It's an
creation.
original idea.
It's the best monster, and it is a monster that is exclusive to cinema. I mean, now you've had books and spin-offs and everything, but it's a monster that begins in movies.
Yeah.
I think Godzilla, the first Godzilla, would easily make my top 50 movies of all time.
50?
Probably pretty high on there, yes. The first Godzilla, I think, is an absolute
Now,
fucking
you just gave a
masterpiece.
passionate, well-argued monologue about how it's your second favorite movie that
Well,
we watched.
I think it's two different
Okay,
criteria.
all
I think
right.
it's two different criteria. And you know what lists Godzilla for me is #1 on, the original Godzilla? Is I thought about this. You know when they do that thing where they put together like a time capsule to send out into space in
Sure.
case aliens find it or
Okay.
something, right? If I was like putting together a time capsule of human civilization and I could only put one movie in that time capsule, I think I would put in the original Godzilla.
You'd send the aliens a movie about a giant
Yes.
alien destroying us.
I
Why?
think
To show
it's-
what? Our resiliency?
I didn't even think about it like that.
Okay.
I just thought
You just
about
think they'd like
what's
it?
the movie that best represents the movies and best represents the humans making movies, the movies, right? What is the most movie?
That's a good list for
what's
a
the
future episode.
what's the best movie
The most
movie?
movie.
The best movie.
Yeah, and it's like
Godzilla
movie-
to me
yeah.
is maybe the most movie of all time.
Oof.
Yes,
It might be. It
Now,
might be.
but
watch
it's
it
number
tonight.
2 on
But it's number two on this list.
Number 2 on this list because this is a list of the best
Showa.
Godzilla movies, and so the criteria is exclusive to the Godzilla universe. And to me, the most Godzilla movie is not the original Godzilla, but it's Godzilla vs. Mothra.
A Mothra movie.
A Mothra movie.
I agree. Now let's take a look. Let's go ahead and Brett, why don't we show our folks at home?
Yes.
Why don't we run through this list?
Yeah, you read it out loud.
Okay, guys, here is
We
movies.
can stay in the wide shot too.
Here
I'm gonna
is
hold it up
Movies Baby #1. The ranking.
like this. Or I guess Margo maybe cut
Showa.
to my camera and then Joe will read it.
It's the Showa-era
There it is.
Godzilla rankings. Starting from 15, the worst one. 15, King Kong vs. Godzilla. 14, Son of Godzilla. 13, Godzilla Raids Again. 12, Godzilla vs. Megalon. 11, All Monsters Attack. 10, Invasion of Astro Monster. We were aligned on that.
Yep.
9, Destroy All Monsters. 8, Godzilla vs. Gigan. Good movie. 7, Terror of Mechagodzilla.
That's right.
6, Abira Horror
right.
of the Deep. I respect that. 5, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Yes. 4, Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Love it. 3, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. 2, 1954's Godzilla. And #1, winner, chicken dinner. It's Mothra vs. Godzilla.
And if you are skeptical of this and you say Mothra vs. Godzilla,
No, it's amazing.
go watch the
It's
scene.
amazing.
Watch 2
Watch
scenes.
the whole movie.
Watch,
It's an hour and a
watch
half.
the whole movie. But watch when Godzilla trips into the pagoda, and then watch when the 2 fairies on the island are singing the saddest song you've ever heard on the edge of that pond. And it's simultaneously like all of life is coming to an end and yet beginning anew again.